The Integrity Sports Podcast, powered by Harper's Tree and Stump Removal. If you have any tree trimming, tree removal, or stump removal needs, Harper's Tree and Stump Removal has you covered. They can haul rock or sand. They can do driveway work. They can even do horizontal grinding of large wood debris piles. Give Keith a call at 229-314-2048 or at 229-938-2412. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is proud to be the premier sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the Integrity Sports Podcast, covering local sports in the Southwest Georgia area, creating content that is factual, positive, and informative, promoting efforts by athletes, coaches, and sports administrators. Now, here's your host, Tim Estes.
We are live at the Roman Oven Pizzeria on Forsyth Street here in Americus. Come by and have supper with us and enjoy our broadcast tonight. I'm your host, Tim Estes. As always, proud to be joined by our good friend, Scott Westbrook. And each week we will review the area's high school football games from last week and preview the upcoming matchups for this week. We try to focus on Southland Academy, Sumter County High School, and Sly County High School. And toward the end of the broadcast, we'll hit on a few of the other area schools as well. Scott, we enter week 5 this week of the high school football season, nearing that mid-season point, and we're starting to learn a little about the teams in our area.
Tim, last week's games, if a couple of those games, if that doesn't light your fire, your wood's wet.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, I mean, you may have saved $10 not going to the game, but you cost yourself $100 worth of excitement and fun on a couple of these games, and we're going to have a good time rehashing.
We had 3 really good games in our area last week. The biggest one, Sumter County High School here in Americus. Want to congratulate Coach Will Rogers on his first win as the varsity coach at Sumter County High. We'll talk a little bit about them in a little bit. Southland Academy dropped a tough loss to the Gatewood School, and then Sly County with a 6-point overtime win at Bleckley County. Scott, that was a big one.
I cannot wait to relive that. I've watched a lot of the highlights over and over and over since Friday night. It was not a difficult ride back from Cochran on Friday night. I didn't have any trouble at all staying awake, staying focused. Just enjoyed reliving that game over and over and over again. I'm sure Sumter County fans had a similar feeling when Coach Will Rogers got his signature win against Crisp County. But you know, Southland, we're gonna address that in just a minute. But I feel quite certain Southland's going to bounce back and have a lot more joy the rest of the season.
We have some visitors with us here in our room tonight. We want you to come by as well. We've got plenty of room for you to come in and sit down and eat supper with us. Thanks to Anthony and the staff here at the Roman Oven Pizzeria for hosting us each Thursday night. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure and hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the football season. And Scott, let's take off in reviewing last week's game. Let's start this week with Southland Academy. They dropped a tough 20-13 loss to the Gatewood Gators. The current record for Southland now stands at 2-2. And Gatewood scored first in this game through the quarterback, Ames Johnson. You and I talked about him last week as we previewed the game. He hit Blake Calloway on a 22-yard touchdown toss. The PAT was good, and Gatewood had a 7-0 lead. Later in that quarter, Gatewood would drive again deep into the Raiders' territory, but Southland's Trey Sellers intercepted the Johnson pass and started Southland's first scoring drive. It was capped off with a Bank Simmons quarterback keeper, and the PAT was no good, so Gatewood led 7-6. It stayed that way all the way through the midway point of the third quarter, and that's when Bank Simmons would once again take in a quarterback keeper. The PAT by Cooper Boren was good, and Southland led 13-7. With 2:06 left to go in the third quarter, Gatewood running back Everett Bennett would score, and the PAT was good. That made it 14-13 Gatewood. And in the fourth quarter, after several Gatewood penalties, or rather Southland penalties, Gatewood would drive down the field. Bennett would once again carry it in, I think from the 2-yard line. And the Gators decided at that point to go for 2. They wanted to make it an 8-point game. Southland held there, and the final score was Gatewood 20, Southland 13. Scott, sounds like a good one.
It was. Every team is going to have a bad night here and there. But you hope that your opponent doesn't play above their head when you have a bad night. Well, that looks like what happened last week. It looks like Gatewood caught lightning in a bottle, and Southland had to deal with some injuries. They were down early, had some costly penalties, and that's usually all components for components for a loss. And unfortunately, that's what happened. Even though it was, one score away, still it's a loss in the L column. So we hope Southland's able to bounce back this week.
Southland had 2 linemen out going into the game last week. Both of the Say boys, which are big offensive lineman types, both of those were injured last week, didn't get to play. And then during the course of the game, their center, Tom Hart, went down with concussion protocol. We hope he'll be back this week. But when you lose 3 linemen like that on a small school like Southland, it makes it tough.
It's not like you've got a well like Parkview or Grayson or any of that to dip from, where you've got a D1 player backing up another D1 player. With these smaller schools, whether it be single A public or a lot of the private schools here in South Georgia, you get past your first line. A lot of times you're facing a freshman. You got to replace them with a freshman, and that's what happens sometimes. And that's tough to bounce back from when you have 3 losses on your offensive line.
It was not a region game for Southland. Gatewood, a AA school in the GIAA. As Scott mentioned, a lot of young kids got an opportunity to get plenty of snaps last week. And then later on in this season, and we feel like that's going to pay off for Coach Rod Murray and his guys at Southland Academy. But we do hope that these guys will be back this week and be able to play. Scott, let's preview the upcoming game. They are taking on a very good Southwest Georgia team. Looks like Ryan Young has decided to join us. Glad to see Ryan here.
Irwin County in the house.
Yes, he is. But
Hey, we want to talk about Irwin County. We want to talk about their season in a minute. Come on. We want to talk. You don't go.
Scott, Southland going to take on Southwest Georgia. That's always been a really strong program. Southwest Georgia Academy comes in with a record of 1-3. They lost to Terrell Academy in their opener, 28-14. They lost to Central Fellowship, 20-18, and then lost to Bozeman out of Panama City Beach, Florida, 10-7. But last week seemed to get it on track and had a big win, 42-27 over Deerfield Windsor. What do we know about Southwest Georgia?
Southwest Georgia has one bright star on their schedule so far. They got a strong win versus Deerfield Windsor. You look at that 1-3 record and think, they've had a tough season, but reality suggests otherwise. All of their losses are 7 points or less. So, those of us who are diehard high school football fans, if you lose by 7 points or less, that game could have easily gone the other way. So we need to, Southwest Georgia, Southland is favored by 10 in this game, but this is not your typical 1-3 team that you're facing.
Southland fans, you need to watch out for a few players. They are led by running back Bryant Collins. They also have a freshman running back that has put up some big numbers already. His name's Colt Williams, showing a lot of promise. He had a 70-yard touchdown run last week against Deerfield Windsor. Thorne Johnson, another running back, also scored on a long run last week. And Sawyer Franklin seems to be a threat. They've got 4 guys that they rotate in the backfield. And, Scott, they run kind of a funky offense that I've never seen before. They put 3 guys in the backfield behind the center, all of them on the same level, and all 3 of them have their hands out front. Like, you don't know who's going to get the snap.
Clinch County did a little bit of that against Macon County a couple of weeks ago. And it's like some pistol offense. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm sure that Coach Rod Murray's practiced that and prepared them for that, and they've watched enough film to know that they've got some tendencies that they can hopefully exploit during the game.
In looking at the film on Southwest Georgia Academy, I feel like Southland could really exploit some things by using a big wide receiver like Perry Usher. The Southwest Georgia defensive backs are pretty small, and I think a big-bodied guy like Perry Usher creates a real mismatch back there. As we mentioned, Southland also had those two big say guys that were out for health reasons. They lost Tom Hart, their center. Hopefully all those guys can be back this week. If those guys play for Southland, that definitely makes them a better football team, and it'll be a big win for the Raiders. If those guys are out, it's going to be a much bigger challenge.
I think so. I think anytime you've got your offensive line short up, that takes a lot of pressure off your quarterback and your receivers and your running back. But if you're the walking wounded on the offensive line, that makes it a whole lot easier for the defense to scheme and stunt and have success against the team.
So Raider fans, they kick off at 7:30 at Harvey Simpson Stadium on the campus of Southland Academy. Get out and support your Raiders here in Americus this week. Today's show is also brought to you by Marty McDonald State Farm Insurance, located at 925 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard here in Americus. You can reach Marty at 928-3686. Go by and see he or any of his staff, and they can discuss your insurance needs. He can do a discount double check for you to make sure you're receiving all the savings that are available to you. And they even have a life-size cutout of State Farm Jake. Go by and take a photo with Jake. And like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. So Southland Academy drops a tough loss last week. Sly County, the Wildcats, made the road trip over to Cochran, Georgia, to Bleckley County, and came out with a 48-42 win in overtime.
Tim, I'm telling you, one of the best high school football games I've ever seen in my life, and some others have said the same thing. Even I think Coach Alford has said it was one of the best ones he's been a part of. It's a game for the ages. This one, I may be in a nursing home one day and forget my kids' names, but I'll remember that football game. I hate to say it, but it was a good time. The fans had a great time. Everybody was plugged into it. Officiating, I don't know about that, but that's okay. But yeah, it was a great time. And your prediction last week that we were afraid that the kicking game would tip the scale. So
right.
We lined up enough times for point afters, and I made eye contact to you on the radio a couple of times. Like, this one's a big one, especially at the end of the game when it kept going back and forth. And I know you're about to cover that, but a lot of people don't realize they sit there and put so much on the kicker, but there's three key components to a point after or a field goal or anything. There's a snap, there's the hold, and the kick. And in any one of those, if there's if the snap's not good, the hold's not good, the kicker can be the best kicker in the world, but he's and it goes against the kicker. But everything fired on all cylinders the other night. We did have a couple of injuries to our players who were involved in the point after attempt, so that made it a little more stressful, but they were money on every time.
Scott, the game never got more than a 7-point difference either way throughout the entire contest. We had 6 ties in the game. So from 3 minutes into the game until the end of overtime, these two teams delivered blows, went back and forth, and I am happy to eat some crow this week. I predicted that Bleckley County would win by 1 point, and I said that because we had some issues in the previous 2 games with the extra point. But Miguel Yanez Rueda had ice water in his veins the whole night, kicked every extra point right down the middle, high and deep. He looked fantastic. So kudos to Miguel Yanez Rueda on a great, great night. The Sly County Wildcats, Jalewis Solomon was our player of the game. He had 4 touchdowns. 2 of those were on the receiving end. 1 of those was rushing, and 1 of them was a pick 6. And Scott, the Auburn commit, proved why he's a 4-star.
He wanted the ball in the pressure situation. He stepped up to the plate and was a home run hitter for the offense and defense the other night. If we have him firing on all cylinders like that the rest of the season, I've got more confidence than I already have.
KB Aldridge, I felt like, did a really good job at the running back spot as well.
Scored the winning touchdown that just propelled us. KB had some big tackles. Brody Smith had just a phenomenal game, a breakout game. Jack Clark really stepped up. Wyatt Halstead, Sam Forehand. I know I'm going to forget somebody. Jay Kanazawa. They just all of them. I don't mention my kid enough. I mean, but I mean he had 2 interceptions and that came in some key times. But it was a team effort, overall team effort, in which we came out with a victory. And I think that's, throughout the season, we're going to be able to look back on that when we maybe get down in a game and say, look, this team is not better than Bleckley County, so we ought to be able to dig. And because that quarterback Bleckley County had was phenomenal. They had some big, strong, athletic receivers, a good-looking offensive line. It would not surprise me if they made it at least to the Final Four in Big A and maybe even to the state championship.
I got to agree with you. It seems like we're calling the same names every week, but 9 or 10 of these guys every week are showing out. You can't really focus on just one. These guys are stepping up to the plate each week. It was interesting. We had Steve Card on as our radio halftime guest, whose nephew was the kicker for Bleckley County. Very good kicker. Want to throw out some kudos to him. He did a great job, but that's exactly what he said at halftime. He said, if I'm putting on my coach's hat, I can't tell them you've got to focus on Lewis because there's 7 or 8 other guys that are going to beat you at that point. You just got to do your job and hope they don't beat you.
Right.
So it's a lot of fun to watch this many kids performing well. You mentioned our linebacking course of Jack Clark, Brody Smith, and Ethan Sellers. I really felt like we shut the run game down for Bleckley County.
Ethan stepped up in a lot of big plays. The reason I'm hesitant to name names is because it was a total team effort, and there's no way we could have won that game if it was not.
That's right. Scott, this week the Wildcats will be on the road over to Talbotton. They'll take on the Central of Talbotton team. They come in 1-2. They lost 26-0 in their opener to Patala Charter. Had a 53-12 loss to Bacon Charter. But last week, I understand they picked up their first win in the past 28 games with a 14-6 win over Twiggs County. So we'll come into that Central of Talbotton game, and they'll be on a winning streak.
They're favored by 49. I mean, Sly County is favored by 49 in that game. I want to remind everybody, if you're going to be planning to go to that game, it does start at 6:30, not 7:30. That game will be at 6:30 in Talbotton, and Central Talbotton is coming in on a winning streak. Central, believe it or not, at one time they were a powerhouse in football. They haven't been in a while. They've had some rough years. I'm rooting for Central Talbotton to turn their program around, but not this week. I want them to start next week and turn their program around.
Absolutely. The kickoff is at 6:30. Scott, this will probably be one of the weaker teams on the Sly County schedule. They run a very basic offense with one base defensive scheme, not much scheming, not much masking, things like that. A game where Sly County gets a lead really quick, builds it up pretty good, and then Coach Alford should have an opportunity to play a lot of kids.
They better do that because, it's just like we said last week, you can't take any team lightly. When you're playing a team like Central Talbotton, you cannot let them hang around. You can't let them get any defensive or offensive victories where they stop you and make you punt or something like that, because when that happens, it gives them confidence. I hate to say it, but you gotta squash their confidence early in the game. If they come, because they're going to come in wanting to do something, wanting to prove something, but you better jump on them and make it 21-0 about 3 to 4 minutes in the game, and then we should hopefully have a running clock in the second half and everybody get home by about 8 o'clock that night.
So Sly County at Central of Talbotton this coming Friday night. Kickoff is at 6:30 in Talbotton. We hope you can be there. Scott, we've got a huge crowd that's come into the Roman Oven. I know the South Georgia Technical College men's basketball is here. Southland Academy's girls softball team had a home game tonight. Many of their fans are here. So we've got a big crowd here. We hope you'll join us. Come out and see us at the Roman Oven. Today's program is also brought to you by the All South Appraisals, your trusted partner in appraising rural properties in our area. All South Appraisals. They can handle all types of property, including agricultural, commercial, and residential. From vast farmlands to that charming country home, they specialize in rural properties that define the heart and soul of our community. Their commitment to accuracy and dedication to understanding the unique nuances of rural properties is what sets them apart. They blend modern technology with old-fashioned attention to detail, and they provide you with an appraisal you can trust. Whether you're a lender, an attorney, an accountant, a real estate agent, a broker, or a property owner, give All South Appraisals a call. Their number is 478-837-3818. Again, 478-837-3818. All South Appraisals is proud to be a sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. So, Scott, we have reviewed Southland Academy. We've reviewed Sly County, and now we move to what I felt like was a huge win. The Sumter County High School Panthers defeated Crisp County 24-15. The current record for Sumter County now moves to 1-2, but what a big win for Coach Will Rogers and the Panthers.
Coach, Will Rogers, we've been rooting for him. We've said he's definitely the man for the job at Sumter County. With the times that you and I have seen them practice, it looks like what a football team and a football practice should look like. Those young men that are out there, the community really needs to rally behind them. I think they had a good crowd this last week, and that was one of the things that I said is going to take to turn the program around. Don't put it all on the coaches. The coaches are doing their job. You've got to sit there as a community, as a group of fans, and make sure that you let these young men know and the coaches know you appreciate the effort they gave this past Friday night. Crisp County was, even though they're maybe down this year, they're still Crisp County, and they're used to winning. And you take a team that's used to winning and used to beating a team, there's a mental aspect that you've got to overcome too. And the coaches, you got to give them credit for making these young men believe they could win and pulling that victory off.
The Panthers have some momentum now. Running back Jakari Wise had a huge night against the Cougars, as did Quayshawn Tatum. That's a kid that we haven't mentioned much, but Quayshawn really had a breakout night for the Panthers, played well last week. He had a 20-yard touchdown run, as well as grinding out a lot of yardage on the night. Anthony Tyson, the quarterback, broke through the Cougar defense and scampered 37 yards for a touchdown. Scott, at one point in the fourth quarter, Sumter County led Crisp County 24-7. So this game wasn't close. You see 24-15, but for 3.5 quarters, the Panthers dominated the Cougars, and Sumter County came into this game a 31-point underdog.
We have a text group, Tim, that you and I started a few years ago where people in the community can text their scores in. We've got a representative from Marion. We got a representative from Sumter. We got somebody in Taylor that tells us the scores that we can relay them out at the football games for the PA or the radio. And each time we announced that Sumter County score, we would all look at each other like, man, they're going to pull this off. And even though we were so focused on what was going on in Cochran, in our rearview window, we were looking on what was going on for Sumter County also with Crisp County. We were rooting for them to pull it off, and I think that the community stepped up to the plate and said, okay, we're going to get behind these young men, and we're going to get behind these coaches, and we're going to let them believe and let them know that we believe in them and we know they can win.
I am owed a steak dinner from my good friend JoJo Wright, who runs the JoJo Knows Sports podcast over in Crisp County. JoJo, I picked the Panthers last week, so the next time we're together at a GRPA event, I'll let you buy me my steak dinner. Scott, the upcoming game for Sumter County, they will host the north side of Columbus Patriots. North side comes into the game at 3-1. Hardaway and Shaw, their only loss is to a very good LaGrange team.
Northside historically has been a baseball school over in Columbus since Columbus High School has passed the torch to Northside. Northside's pulled off a state championship in baseball. They have just, I think last year, finally turned the corner had some football victories, made it to the playoffs. It's going to be a tough hill to climb. It's not going to be quite a Houston County hill to climb for our for Sumter County, but I think that I think Northside's only 8-point favorite in the game, so that's one score. So hopefully Sumter County can keep it close and pull it off in the end.
Northside Columbus quarterback Caden Clay is a dual threat type quarterback. He's got 9 touchdowns passing already on the young season. His favorite target will be wide receiver Darnell Brooks. Darnell already has 4 touchdowns and 340 yards receiving on the season. Devin Scott and Aaron Osborne have 3 and 2 touchdowns respectively. So it looks like he spreads it around to several wide receivers. Clay also runs the ball a lot. He's averaging 40-plus yards per game on the ground. But their main rusher, the guy you've got to stop, Sumter County, is Jay Walker, or Jay Jackson. I'm sorry, Jay Jackson, averaging 116 yards per game. And then on defense, Ward Walker, their middle linebacker, he leads the Patriots with 7.4 tackles per game. Northside of Columbus is a really good football team. Coach Will Rogers and the Panthers will have their work cut out for them.
Those of you in the community need to show out. This is going to be the second home game, I think, for Sumter County.
That's right.
Apparently, the community showed up and showed out last Friday night. Do it one more time. Let these young men know you're supporting them. And I feel quite certain Northside thinks they're going to waltz right in here and get the victory. Keep the game close, and you never know what's going to happen towards the end.
Coach Will Rogers, Panthers, entertaining the home crowd for the second time this season. Panther faithful, come out, support your Panthers this week. And, Scott, you have to be happy and hopeful for brighter days at Sumter County High on the football field.
Most definitely.
We have a new sponsor this week. It is One Digital. One Digital is the steward of business growth and personal development. Their insurance, financial services, and HR platforms provide personalized, tech-enabled solutions for a contemporary work-life experience. One Digital resolves real problems for your business and for your employees. They fuse together customized solutions that address employee benefits, HR, and financial services. It's everything all in one. It's One Digital. Contact Will Peterson at 229-347-6289 today. Again, that number, 229-347-6289. One Digital, proud to be a sponsor of the Integrity Sports Podcast. We're glad to have Miss Ellen Bergamy here with us tonight. She's just walked in the room, so glad to have her with us. Scott, got a few area games that we want to mention now that we have covered the games for Sumter, Sly, and Southland. Let's start with Macon County. They'll take on Greenville. Macon County currently ranked number 2 in Class A Division II.
Tim, let's see if we've got any comments on the message board. If we need anything we need to address. Miss Ellen Bergamy, I'm so glad that she was able to come from the main streets of Butler, Georgia, and make it down here. And of course, she could have hitched a ride with me. Oh, we've got a few comments. You're gonna have to read them. I don't have my glasses.
It looks like camping and cooking with Carrie has checked in once again. I am wondering if that is my friend from Buford, Georgia, Carrie Claiborne, who is the PA announcer for the Gwinnett Stripers. Looks like he's checked in. Glad to have him. One of the ways you can interact with us is on this live chat, so make sure and do that. If you're commenting on Facebook, we can't see those right now. We'll see those on the replay. But if you're commenting on YouTube, we will see your live chat. So go to YouTube and subscribe to us. So, Scott, let's take our first game that's outside of our 3 area teams, and that'll be Macon County and Greenville.
Okay, Macon County and Greenville, they do. Macon County is coming in and 41-point favorite. Greenville 0-3, lost to Spencer 65-19. Mount Zion 33-18. Carroll County 33-22. So Greenville has steadily improved. Macon County 3-0. They beat that. I think it was Whitefield Academy. Is what we did early in the season, 28-0. Clinch 28-19, and Dooley's 36-30. Macon County's going the other direction. Their games are getting closer and closer as the season progresses. Macon County, one thing Greenville has going for them is Macon County might be looking towards next week for the Sly County game. And this, can help Greenville. And, if Greenville comes in, has a great night, maybe they can catch Macon County sleeping. But that's about as likely as me losing 50 pounds. Macon County will have a running clock probably in the second half.
I got to agree with you. Lee County, they're going to try to attempt to rebound from their only loss. They had a loss last week to Moultrie, to Colquitt County. This week, they'll take on Lake Gibson, Florida.
Lee County lost a little more than the game.
I hear that.
In Moultrie, from what I heard. Let's just say they win this and get back on track. That's all I think. I think they're going to get back on track. I don't know anything about Lake Gibson, Florida, but I know a good bit about Lee County. And unless Lake Gibson comes in stacked, they're going to toe the L back across state line.
I don't know if they have found the penalty flag that was lost in Moultrie yet. We'll have to find that out.
It was in the parking lot last I heard.
That's right. Deerfield, Windsor, they'll be open this week, and then the following week they'll travel to Terrell Academy. Deerfield, Windsor, it looks like Scott needs a week off. They've been beaten up pretty good the last 2 weeks.
They lost 42-27 last week against SGA. 2 weeks off might be just what the doctor ordered.
A big one for you, Scott. I know in your hometown, Taylor County going to host Chatco over in Butler.
I know that's what Max Prep says, but reality is that it's going to be in Casita tomorrow night.
Is it?
It is. They're going to Casita. So a lot of people don't know Taylor County's got a defensive back, Kamani Sanders. He's got 4 interceptions on the season. Braden Ellison, young player doing well. Cameron Lawhorn, DJ Jenkins, 2 seniors that are leading the team. And like I said, it looks like they're turning the corner on a lot of different areas. Taylor is a 7-point favorite in that game. I think they're going to probably win by at least 14.
Gotcha. I'm going to just have to agree with you because I don't know much about Chatco yet. I do feel like Taylor County has improved since game 1. And the big game in this area will be Manchester and Marion. Marion County will host that game, if I'm correct. But they'll take on Manchester, probably the best game in our region this weekend. What do you think about these 2 teams?
Manchester is only an 8-point favorite, 1 score in this game. Marion County has turned the corner, has found some of their past glory in football, but I don't think they're made a 180-degree turn. So I think Manchester wins this by more than 8.
So, Scott, that's all of the area games that we have. It's time now for the Booger Bottom wrap-up, brought to you by the Booger Bottom Yacht Club. They have been voted numerous times as the best burger in Sumter County. They're located on Lamar Road on the banks of Lake Blackshear. Stop by Booger Bottom and see Miss Sue, Rick, Russ, or Renee, or any of their fine staff, and let Booger Bottom wrap you up with the best burger in Sumter County. Our prediction time, Scott, we'll start with a pretty easy one. Sly County at Central of Talbotton. I believe this one's going to get ugly in a hurry.
We hope. We hope. I hope that a lot of the younger guys get a lot of experience and playing time, because I know they haven't been able to, because Sly County has been involved in some pretty tough games. I mean, even though the early county was a 30-0 game, we couldn't put the young men in, the younger players in, until it got really late in the game at that point. And of course, this past week's game was close and went into overtime. So I'm hoping a lot of younger guys get in there and get to play some this week, and that we, like you said, that we jump out to a lead early and put it away quickly.
Sly County, a 49-point favorite according to the Maxwell rating system. I'm going to say the only way it stays 49 or under is if Darren Alford wants it to stay 49 or under. Sumter County hosts north side of Columbus. The Panthers come in at 1-2. The Patriots are 3-1 on the season. Sumter County is an 8-point underdog. Scott, what do you have?
Last week I picked against them and they won. So I'm going to keep that little superstition going. I'm going to pick against them, say that baseball school is going to come in and beat them. The community, you've got as much to do with this on Friday night as anything. Come out, be loud, show those kids you appreciate them. And if they pull a victory out this week, then I may jump on the bandwagon.
I don't know very much about north side of Columbus, but I know a lot about the kids on the Sumter County Panthers team. I think last week's win over Crisp County has really started to turn the culture there. There's a lot of hope. North side will be a good team. I'm going to pick the Panthers by 1. The Panthers by 1 here at home over north side of Columbus. And Southland host Southwest Georgia Academy. The Raiders are banged up a little bit, but I think they've got enough to bring home a W. Southland is a 10-point favorite in this game, Scott.
I think Southland's going to win it. I think the injuries are, these 16, 17-year-old young men, they heal a little quicker than we do. And I've seen some kids who I thought were injured pretty bad one week, and all of a sudden the next week they look like, nothing ever happened. So I feel like that they're going to be able to be out there and hopefully will be full strength and pull off the win. I'm going with Southland in this game. We need to check our before we wrap up. We need to check if there's any more
We can.
comments on there.
We can check our live chat and see if anybody has checked in with us. It looks like somebody has. I'm gonna throw this up there, Scott.
I can't see it. You're gonna have to.
Either.
Man, we're gonna have to hire a reader.
Looks like Jake Revel is checking in with us. Want to say hello to Jake. Glad that he has joined us. Our screen is so far away from us, Jake, that I can't really tell what it says.
I think Tommy may have.
Let me see if Tommy can give it to me on the phone. Jake says, good evening, guys. Long-time listener, first-time commenter. What are your thoughts on North Oconee versus Madison County? Do you think Madison County has the talent to get the job done at home? Well, here's what I would tell you on that, Jake. I don't know much at all about North Oconee or Madison County on the high school level, but I do know a lot about them on the rec level, both of those programs. And if the same kids that played rec sports for North Oconee and Madison County are matching up, I got to go big time with North Oconee.
North Oconee's a 19-point favorite in that game. Both teams are coming in undefeated. Last year, I believe North Oconee won 42-0. I think is what happened. Madison County beat Cherokee Bluff 27-26 in a big game. Madison County's got a quarterback, Camden Smith, 518 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns. Running back Zamarius Shiflett, 399 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns on the season. And they've only thrown 11 passes all season. So if Madison County comes in with a one-dimensional offense like that, North Oconee is going to remain king in that region and win decisively. Like I said, a 19-point favorite, and they'll probably get that.
Jake, you can't get anything past the guy, Scott Westbrook. He's got stats on everybody, and that's why we have him on this program. So we appreciate you checking in, and we'll check back next week to see if his stats are right and North Oconee was able to pull off the win. Scott, we've got a good, exciting week coming up tomorrow. I want to get your final thoughts on week 5 in this area.
Well, I'll be in Central Tarleton early tomorrow evening. We'll be at that game. I feel like Taylor County is going to get a win against Chetco. That's going to help them improve on their season. They're trying to turn the program around. But I really hope Marion County has a strong showing against Manchester.
Yeah.
I feel like, I've already said, I feel like Southland's going to win. And I hope the community and the culture, I hope the community turns out for Sumter County and the culture continues to change in the football program.
I'm going to go with you on that. I think Southland and Sly County win handily tomorrow. And that's not to cut who their opponents are. That's just how much they are ahead of each of their opponents right now. Sumter County, a big chance tomorrow to make a statement against north side of Columbus. Hope the Panthers can come out and do that. And Marion County, we thought they may be down again this year, but so far they're proving us wrong and they've played well. Let's hope that Marion County can have a big win next week or tomorrow and get a win there over Manchester. We want to thank you for making the Integrity Sports Podcast a part of your weekly routine. Certainly want to thank all of our sponsors. Harper's Tree and Stump Removal is our premier sponsor. Marty McDonald, State Farm Insurance, All South Appraisals, One Digital Solutions, and Booger Bottom. Of course, it's always nice to be here at the Roman Oven Pizzeria with a big crowd. Got a lot of folks that are still in here. The line is out the door right now. Come by and see Anthony and his staff at the Roman Oven Pizzeria. We are gaining ground and people are enjoying the program. We want to thank you. For the first time in our history, which is 35 weeks now, we hit the 2,000 view mark this week. So, Scott, a lot of folks enjoying the show.
Wow. I thought one of us was going to have to do the show shirtless to be able to get that. Glad we're to that point. So we'll see.
Our show is available on YouTube, and please go on YouTube and hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a dime, and the only notification you'll get is when a show is about to air. So please go on and hit the subscribe button for us. We're also available on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook today, please hit the like button and share this video with your friends. We're available on Twitter, which is now called X, LinkedIn, and several other social media and podcast platforms. For my good friend Scott Westbrook, I'm Tim Estes. Thanks for watching tonight. So long, everybody.